Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Absolutely Podcast, the podcast specifically designed to help women defeat diet culture and live their dream healthy lifestyle. I am super excited for today's episode because I'm going to be talking all about my current fat loss phase that I am in and that I am challenging myself to do through the holidays to prove to you all that you can lose fat during the holidays without being just completely miserable and giving up all of the holiday sweets, treats, cocktails, meals, all the things. And so I'm going to be talking about how that is going, what the strategy I am using for that is, and how my progress has been as well. And I always like to hear people's updates on fat loss and their journeys because it's really interesting to hear how different people experience different things. And I feel like when you have a bunch of information out there, it can be hard with who should I follow? What should I be taking with a grain of salt? Because as we know with the fitness industry, and maybe I'm just a person that knows this, but there's a lot of smoke and mirrors and there's a lot of things that people will tell you that are not true. So I'm going to give you just like the raw and real update on how I am feeling and how I have been going about things exactly with no lies in there in between. So I'm excited to go over that today, but wanted to give you all a quick little just chit chat session, life update, whatever, before getting into that is related to my fat loss phase for the new year and stuff like that. But I just wrapped up my shoot for my New Year's programs, which I am really excited about. And I am taking on a limited amount of women. I'm actually only taking on 3 for the new year because I am actually going to Mexico with my family the first week of the new year. So I don't want to stress about taking a ton of clients that first week. So I will only be taking 3 women to start on New Year's Day. So if you want to secure one of those spots, I will give you all pre-access to that because my podcast listeners are literally the best and I love all of you that tune in every single week. So I will put in an application in the description of this podcast, or you can DM me and say, hey girl, I'm interested in this, and we can hop on a quick call or just chat a little bit more. I'm not scary and I'm not going to try to force you into anything, but I do want to see if we connect and see if we are a good fit. So I just wrapped that, but I was laughing to myself because I wanted to do pictures with champagne because that is very on brand for me. Number one, champagne is one of my favorite beverages. I love champagne, but I also have alcohol is part of my brand and having that balance. So I thought to myself, I want to have a New Year's shoot where I do have a glass of champagne in hand naturally. But it is currently Thursday, December 12th at 9 a.m. And I didn't want to open up a whole bottle of champagne because, as you know, champagne goes bad quickly because the carbonation gets lost. So I was in this predicament, like, do I wait and to do the shoot till like a Friday night and then I can have the drink, whatever. But then I had this grand idea. I'm like, why don't I just open a bottle of ginger ale, which this probably eliminates the coolness of my shoot that I'm doing. So now when you look at my post on Instagram that I'll post here in the next week or so, when I do like the launch of my New Year's program for everyone else, but it is actually a glass of ginger ale that I have in my hand in the champagne flute. And let me tell you, it looks dramatically the same. Like I was shook when I saw how similar that looked, and then I held up the bottle of nice champagne in my other hand because I'm not opening a bottle of Vouv at 9 a.m. on Thursday, December 12th. Like that is probably considered a problem, especially. And I needed to record this podcast. I needed to do client check-ins, and doing those things under the influence is not a good thing. So I made that shoot though, and I'm really happy with the pictures. I just was laughing to myself. Like if anyone's looking in the window, I'm like shooting the content with a tripod, with a light, with my glass of champagne. Like it was very fit Abby coded. And I'm really excited for you all to see the images when I do post those on Instagram. But it's just crazy to me every single time this time of year comes up, just how quick the year flies by. And I feel like 2024 just started and I've just gone through so many things this year, so many phases, and I'm just really hopeful for 2025. I will say 2024 was like not the easiest year for me. It was definitely a very growth centric year, if I will say so myself. There was a lot of things that I went through, new things that I went through, and I'm just excited to start off 2025 on a fresh note. And if you are too, I would love to help you out with your health and fitness journey and make that as part of the journey that you go through this next year. But I know for myself, I've obviously been on my fitness journey for a while. I'm not concerned about my health and fitness and starting that restart button in the new year, but I am excited to just have a fresh, clean slate for 2025 and to go into the year with a positive mentality and just opening up new experiences and all of that stuff. But like I said, I will be starting starting the new year in Mexico, which I am so pumped about. We typically go to Mexico or go somewhere for Christmas just because we used to live in Utah. Now we live in Arizona and the weather's a little bit nicer. But when we did live in Utah, it was like we wanted to get out somewhere warm and not be in the cold winter weather. So we would travel usually somewhere tropical, which happened to lie over like those Christmas dates typically, because we had school off and that was the time that we could all do it together. But now that we're all graduated and have this flexible schedule, my parents are like, let's go over New Year's. And it's also my mom's birthday on New Year's Eve. So it'll be fun to celebrate down there with her. But I can't even tell you how excited I am to wake up in Cabo, margarita in my hand, going to the beach. I also am going to be playing golf down there, which I am so excited about. And it's just going to be such a great week. But again, if you want to be coached by me, we want to make sure we're getting you in before that because I want to be able to take a little vacay. And I'm still, I'm still a coach. I'm still fit Abby, and this is still like my favorite thing I do ever. So I'm still allowing my clients to reach out to me while I am on vacation because it's really not a big deal to me. But I do want to make sure that you're getting in there before I am in Mexico. Anyways, let's dive into my New Year's cut. And I don't know why I just called it New Year's cut. My 6-week cut that I've been doing since before Thanksgiving. And I kind of had this idea because number one, I am going to Mexico at the end of the month, and I'm a big proponent of you don't need to be in a deficit going into a vacation. But I was just kind of feeling like I wanted to challenge myself. I'm in a time in my life right now where I don't have a ton of interruptions. I kind of have a lot of me time, and it's nice. So I was like, why not just push yourself for 6 weeks? And I was also just excited to kind of create content around being in a deficit phase. I find that my content in a deficit is just like fun for me to make and to document. And I thought to myself, what better time of year to do it during the holidays to prove to my audience and to myself included that you can lose fat even during the holiday season. And one thing I have kind of placed on myself, and I'm sorry if I've done this to any of my clients too, but during the holidays, I think we think of it as a time of year where it is a lot harder to lose body fat. And so I almost wanted to challenge myself too of like, let's see how things go during the holidays. Like I've never done a deficit during the holidays and my metabolism was in a good spot. I was excited. It was something I wanted to do. And I thought to myself, 6 weeks, like you can do this to the end of the year. And I think it would be a great opportunity to test out how you can lose fat during the holidays. And that way I have those skills as well to talk to my clients about and these pro tips and all of this stuff. And I really have to say it has been one of my easiest deficits I've been in from an adherence standpoint. For some reason, way easier than the ones I did when it wasn't the holiday season. And I really think it's because of the things and the protocols that I did put in place that allowed me to be successful during this deficit phase. And if you're right now like, oh my gosh, Abby, I'm going to definitely end the year up 10 pounds. And that's like just going to happen no matter what. I will tell you like that does not have to be the case. And right now I am enjoying life still. I'm doing things, I'm going out to dinner, I'm having family dinners, I'm having social events, and I'm still able to lose body fat. And it is really cool to have a lifestyle and a diet that is not restrictive. So that way you can do all of these things and still see the results that you want to see. So let's dive into like exactly what my protocols are, and then I'll go into how I've been feeling and my results and whatever. But my protocols are something that I feel like have really served me well during this time of year. So I am in around a 400 calorie deficit right now. I'm going to share with you my numbers, but I do not want you to follow them because unless you are literally my exact height, weight, activity level, doing all the same workouts as me, they're not going to work for you. So I'm just going to share this with you as just like a data point. So that way you kind of know like where I am at. And I will say I started this deficit more aggressively than I would like in just doing like a regular cut. I'm calling this a mini cut because it is 6 weeks, and I'll talk about that time frame and why I feel like that time frame's been helping me as well. But because I'm like, I don't need to be in this long cut, I'm going to just do it a little bit more dramatically than I typically would start it out. So I started it out with a bang at that 400 calorie deficit, which for me right now is around 1730 calories, 170 grams of carbs, 50 grams of fats, and 150 grams of protein. So that is where I am at right now calorically. And with macros, I am eating around a gram per pound of body weight, a little bit more than that. And I also, this is one thing that I implemented this cut that I have never done in any of my other cuts, is I'm having one treat meal a week where I go over 350 calories. So I am still tracking that meal. I'm not just like having a effort meal and eating whatever I want and eating the whole table on the couch. Like, I am being strategic with this meal still, but it allows me a little bit more of that flexibility and kind of takes a little bit of stress away of if I do have a meal out that I like want to just have some extra calories or some extra drinks and not feel kind of gross during the day leading up to it. I am allowing myself that. And that has been extremely helpful, especially for the meals that I had for Thanksgiving. So over Thanksgiving, I had 2 Thanksgivings. So one Thanksgiving we had actually on Monday, and that was the Thanksgiving we had the turkey and the regular foods that you have for Thanksgiving. And I actually just tracked that. I didn't use that as my treat meal. I used my treat meal when we went out to eat and we went to this yummy steakhouse, and I knew I wanted a couple of glasses of wine, a steak, whatever. So I was able to go over 350 calories for that meal. And it was amazing. I am really loving this strategy. And I think it's something I'm going to start incorporating for more of my clients and myself included when I go into a deficit in the future, because it allows me to like not have as much stress. Like if I do have to go over one day, and know that it's not going to like slow me down a ton. And if you go over one day, regardless, like it's fine. I just know I'm in a 6 week deficit, and I like want to make the most out of those 6 weeks, and I don't want to push it longer. So I want to be a little bit more strategic and a little bit more dialed in. So having that 350 calorie buffer for the one day has just been nice for me. And like even last week, I went out to dinner with my sisters, and then afterwards we were like, let's go grab drinks somewhere else. So that was something I was like, cool. Like I have an extra 350 calories to work with that. And so I've been really loving that. And I just am eating a little bit lower calorie during the week to account for that 350 calories when I do go out to eat. And one of the weeks, like I didn't even use that. And so it's kind of cool to have that in your back pocket, like if you need the extra calories, but you don't like necessarily have to do that either. Like you don't have to force yourself like, oh, tonight's my treat meal. Like I have to plan a big treat meal. Like that's not something I'm really like thinking about. Like if I need to use it, great. If I don't, great. Like I'm not like focusing so much on food and like building my entire life around a treat meal. And that's why I don't typically like to program treat meals for clients, is because I think it does enforce kind of that mentality of like one day you can like go balls to the walls, and like you should just be having those foods like regularly. And even on some of the days where I haven't like implemented my 350 calorie like treat meal, like I've still had drinks, I've still had chocolate, I've still had desserts, I've still had meals out, even when I'm not using that buffer. It just is nice to have there. Anyways, I've been chatting about the buffer for like 5 minutes, but I think it is cool to implement that and to have that, especially when you are taking into account that with your overall average calories. I had to take a sip of my coffee. It's a two coffee kind of day here. Workouts wise. So I am currently doing 90 minutes of cardio, and I'm doing completely incline walks right now, and I'm loving it. Side note, I have started Southern Charm from the very beginning. It's a reality show on Bravo. And if you haven't watched it and you're a reality girl, you need to watch it. Literally seasons 1, 2, and 3. I was shook. I was shook. I was shocked. I literally just lost my words trying to explain it. But that's what I've been watching on the treadmill, and it has just been such a fun part of my day to just like unplug and watch some reality TV on the treadmill and just see what's going on with everyone. Oh my goodness. If anyone else is a Southern Charm person and they're listening to this, like please DM me, because I have no one to talk to about it. And I am really obsessed right now. But anyways, 90 minutes of cardio, incline walking. I am no longer running. I know I chatted about that in the last like maybe couple of episodes that I was doing some running. And so I finished my 5K plan. And to be honest, like it's just not something I love to do. And with working out, I'm a big proponent of like you should like love you workouts. Yeah, I will say some days you might be like, I literally, the last thing I want to do is get a workout in, and you have to have that discipline. But overall, it shouldn't be something that you're like, I feel freaking miserable. I hate everything I'm doing here. So I'm not running anymore because that's literally how I was feeling. Plus, it just like felt like a lot of stress onto my body with being in a deficit phase, to be honest. And I feel like I am feeling less inflamed not running and just getting my incline walks in and then my steps in as well. So that's just how I am feeling. And I'm like not really looking back, and I'm happy about the decision I made with that. And then steps wise, I'm getting around 10 to 12K steps that I am tracking on my Oura ring. And then other protocols, I'm trying to have at least 80 to 90% whole foods, mostly 90%. I will have some processed things during the day, but when I'm saying processed, I'm talking about like a protein shake that maybe is processed, or having the chocolate chips at the end of the night on my Greek yogurt that save me processed. So nothing crazy processed. I am really trying to eat in, except for that 1 or 2 meals. When I'm in a deficit, I find that progress moves a little quicker when I'm not eating out, just because you have like a little bit more control over what you're putting in your food. The man at the restaurant doesn't really care that you're in a deficit, and he'll put an extra stick of butter on things like if he wants to. So I like to be a little bit more picky with my eating out when I am in a deficit phase. And I will typically only go out to eat if like someone invites me and I go. I'm not like getting takeout. Like if I can eat in for the night and I don't have any plans, I'm eating in for the night. So that's kind of how I am viewing that. Same thing with drinking. Like I am not like having a glass of wine, just have a glass of wine at home by myself. If I am out somewhere and they're like, let's grab a glass of wine, like I'm not going to say no to that. But I also am going to be mindful about like how much I am drinking. And honestly, it's been so nice to not have as much alcohol. And I was definitely going through a phase where I was partying a little bit. Okay. I was having some more glasses of wine and some more drinks than usual the last few months. And it's been kind of nice to just slow down and be in my wellness era for a little bit more. And I said this to my sister, and she goes, yeah, Abby, you're always in your wellness era, which I am. And I'm always like having that balance. But I can definitely tell like when I'm having less alcohol, and even when I'm having more alcohol for myself, it's nothing like crazy, but definitely was having more than my normal. And I'm just feeling so good. Like my sleep feels much better, and I'm just feeling good from that. But anyways, that's a side note. And then the last thing I'm doing is I'm making sure I'm getting lots of sleep in. In a fat loss phase, it is so important to make sure that you are really prioritizing your sleep. And let me tell you, your girl has been prioritizing her sleep. I think it's something to do with the sun going down earlier here. I'm just like in bed by like 8 p.m. I don't know what it is. I'm like, am I getting old? Am I in my grandma era? But I also think that being in a deficit, I just get a little bit tired earlier as well, just because I'm eating less than I'm burning. So my body's just kind of like, yep, it's time for bed. And I am not mad at that. So I will get in bed, I'll read my book for a little bit, and then I will slowly drift off to sleep. And it has been fabulous here. So, how I am planning to navigate Christmas, because I know that a lot of people during Christmas, they're going to be like freaking out because they don't want to go over on their calories and don't want to gain weight and whatever. So, I am not going to worry about Christmas. I'm actually going to not track on either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. I haven't decided yet, but one of the days I'm not going to track. We have a nice dinner out one of those days, and I can't remember which one it is, to be honest. So, whatever day that is, I'm not going to track. The other one I probably will track, and I might use the buffer treat meal for one of those meals, but I'm not going to worry about it. If you really think about it, holidays are just a few days out of the year, and we give them way too much power. Be flexible, have the balance, and know that after the holidays as well, like your life will probably slow down a lot, which is really nice, but don't want to allow that to be an excuse to just like go crazy. Like still be mindful with your eating, still be present, and make sure that you have a plan going into the day. But I am just going to kind of navigate Christmas like how I have been this entire deficit. And honestly, it has been very smooth sailing. Like I am honestly really impressed by myself. And even me being a fitness coach, like it does take me planning, it takes me some execution, some strategy, some discipline to get through a deficit phase. But I will say it's been pretty simple, and I haven't been like, oh my gosh, like I really want to like completely binge on something. And like you should never feel like that even during a deficit phase. So results so far. let's chat about the results. So I am definitely feeling leaner. And even my sister was like, oh, girl, like you look good. So I know it's happening. I am down around 3 pounds on the scale, which when I'm in a fat loss phase, I shoot for half a pound to 1 pound per week of fat loss. So I'm definitely in that success range because I'm nearing into my fourth week down. So I'm in my third week right now, totally. So I am proud of myself for that because that is in my average. But I will say and now it's been 12 days because I just hit the same number today. The last 12 days, I have hit 147. And it's actually kind of wild that it hasn't gone above or below. Like, I'm happy that it hasn't gone above, but I've literally been at 147 pounds for 12 days. And for the average person, this would probably send them into a spiral of like, I have been hitting my protocols exactly. Why am I not losing fat? But for me, being a fitness coach and knowing that this is totally normal, like I am not freaking out. Yes, it's annoying. Yes, I would love to see some low weigh-ins because I'm a human and it's fun to see the scale go down, but I am not worried about it. Fluctuations are totally normal. And I think that when you understand how your body fluctuates, it's not as scary when you see a number that is higher or you see a number a bunch of days in a row. And for me personally, I know that right after I get my period, that is when I get my lowest weigh in. And so I am not worried about it. I am just going to ride it out. And if I see a low weigh in before then, great. If not, it's just part of the process. And it doesn't mean that you're not losing body fat. How I like to explain it to people is it's called like the whoosh effect, and some people experience this more than others, and I am a person that experiences the whoosh effect, and I wish I just saw low weigh-ins every single day because it'd be a lot more affirmation. I think that's a reason why I in the past had given up on losing fat so many times because I didn't see scale progress, is because my body does this thing called the whoosh effect. So basically you'll stay a certain number for a long period of time, and then one day you'll drop 1, 2, 3 pounds overnight, and it basically just whooshes out of your body. And it is a crazy phenomena, but a lot of my clients experience it. Literally, one of my clients texted me this morning and was like, I had it happen. It happened to me. And so it is definitely a normal thing. And if you know how your body fluctuates, it allows a lot of mental freedom, honestly, because you're like, hey, I know this is normal. This is totally fine. So I'm not worried about being at 147 for 12 days. It's all good. I also have been experiencing some digestion issues, which it can happen during a deficit. And when I am experiencing digestion issues, I'm looking at a few things: stress, water, and fiber. Water has been good. I actually got this new Hydro Jug. If you're watching the video, you can see it, but it's brown and it is so cute. So I've definitely been getting my water in. Stress has been low, honestly. This is like a pretty slow time of the year for my business, at least, just because it is the holidays and stuff. But stress has been low. But fiber has been kind of hard. And when you're in a deficit, it can be hard to get your fiber in just because you have lower carbs. So you have less to work with when it comes to getting your fiber in. So I've been getting around like 20 to 25 grams of fiber, and my normal is usually around 25 to 30. So I think my digestion is just slowing down a little bit. I'm also eating less, obviously, food than I'm used to. So I think my body is just like, ooh, but that is probably contributing to the scale plateauing as well, because I just have not been, TMI, just have not been great digestion wise. Have not been regular in that aspect of things. Just for the last though like week or so, it hasn't been anything crazy, but definitely something to keep an eye on. And that's something I always look at with my clients too, is like, how's your digestion? How's your stress? How is your energy level? Seeing all those things and making sure that you are feeling good during a deficit. Because a lot of times people have come to me and they're like, when I'm in a calorie deficit, I feel super low energy. I feel awful. I feel restricted. My digestion's terrible. And like, those things are not things that you should be struggling with during a deficit. Yes, sometimes to a certain extent, because you are human and your body adapts, and that is normal. But you should never be feeling like a terrible shell of a human when you are in a deficit phase. And for sure, I will be honest with you, like, when I am in a deficit, I do not feel my absolute best. I do not have the most energy I could have ever. My digestion is not at peak digestion level. I'm not feeling like absolutely amazing. Like, I'm definitely can tell I'm in a deficit, but I never feel miserable. And that was something that in the past I felt freaking miserable. I remember I couldn't even get through a day without napping. I would have like 4 coffees a day, probably just adding to the stress levels with that. I can't believe I would do that. I would literally have a coffee at 6 p.m. before going to my 3-hour class at 7, which why would I sign up for a 3-hour class at 7 at my university? I don't know. But I definitely feel way better when you're at maintenance. And that is why I say live your life at maintenance and then going into a deficit, a purposeful deficit, a few times a year or a couple times a year. Honestly, once or maybe twice a year is a good amount of time to be in a deficit, or 0 times per year. Like, we should not be spending the majority of the year at a deficit. And if you are, that could be a reason why you're not really seeing progress during those deficits, is because you're not allowing your body to heal in between. So I gave my body more than enough time in between deficits to get back to normal this year. And I did a very short deficit in like April, May, and honestly was not very adherent for that deficit, which is my fault, but a lot of things going on personally. And then as far as this one, I have really loved having this 6-week deadline. A lot of people like deadlines and some people don't like deadlines. And that is something I've learned while coaching clients, is that some people respond really well to having, you need to do this for 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks. Some people are like, I just want to see how I'm feeling after 8 weeks and then keep going from there. And that is the approach I had always taken in a deficit for myself, is just saying, I want to go into a cut and then just like going until I felt good and then came out of it. But what I've kind of liked with this one is saying 6 weeks, let's give it all you got for these 6 weeks. And then afterwards, just going back to maintenance and doing a little bit of a reverse diet is what I plan to do. But I've been kind of liking that approach, especially since I'm in a spot where I'm like, I don't need to lose 15, 20, 30 pounds. Like, if you're in that spot, yes, you'll probably need to do like a 12 to 20 week cut. Like, that would be something more realistic. But since I'm just like, want to get a little bit leaner, feel a little bit better, go to Mexico, feel sexy in my bikini, like, that doesn't require me to be in like a 12-week deficit, honestly, like with where I'm at right now. So I've been kind of loving the 6 weeks of just blasting through it. It's giving me like light at the end of the tunnel too, where I'm like, okay, girl, we only have 2 weeks to go. Like, it feels good and it feels motivating. So anyways, I've been toying around with some new strategies this deficit, and I've been loving it. But anyways, I think that is all I have to chat about for this episode. So hopefully you all enjoyed my little mini cut update. And reminder, if you want to secure one of those New Year's spots, would love to have you here in the Metabolic Makeover program. So I'll have that link down below, or message me and we can get chatting there. But make sure to like, subscribe, all the things on the podcast, and leave a rating and review. That is super important. And we want to make sure I'm pushing this info out to the best people possible. So have a good rest of your Thursday, and I will all chat with you soon. I said Thursday, but it's probably a different day for you. Anyways, okay, bye.